Hi and welcome. My name is Fresh and I'm the personal trainer here with Amino Z. Today we're going to talk to you about rest, recovery, and recuperation. The things that we're going to cover today: how can you rest adequately, not only on the smallest scale but on the largest scale, to improve your training and to improve your results. So there's two parts to this. We're going to talk about your rest time when you train, so during training, meaning rest in between sets, how to space out your training. And then we're going to talk about how to rest outside of training, your training days. So days, how many days should you be taking to rest between your training, depending on your goals. And everything, of course, is always dependent upon your end goal. There's no one right way of doing these things. There's a bunch of different ways that you can try and achieve your goal, and making sure that you rest and recover properly is going to be a huge factor in improving your performance. Alright, so depending on your goals. So we're talking about some different goals include endurance, improving your endurance, power, speed or explosiveness, your strength, that's the amount of force that you can generate, or the classic bodybuilding type hypertrophy, so increasing muscle volume. So how do you rest between your training sessions? There's going to be a couple of things that are going to take into consideration when you're talking about recovering between training sessions. So you've got your short-term and your long-term recovery, and two important things are the actual rest, active rest, and then the second thing is going to be your nutrition. Your nutrition is going to play a huge role in your recovery and recuperation. So we'll go over also what you should be intaking for your nutrition so that you can recover properly. So first of all, why do we want to recover properly? Recovery is underrated. When you want to reach an end goal, such as hypertrophy or get some mass going on or improve your strength, all of the gains that you make are not being made in the gym when you're pumping. The gains that you make are when you're sleeping or when you're resting or when you're not training. So the training is a stimulus, and to actually get results, you need to rest. So that's why rest is underrated. If you're training every day and you've hit a plateau, or you're feeling kind of sleepy, sluggish, depressed, anxiety, stress, well, it's probably because you're overtraining and you're not getting enough rest to recover and get better and adapt. So the body needs time to adapt to what you're giving it to do. One of the really, really big things when it comes to resting between training sessions are the sleep. How is your sleep cycles? People need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep, depending on the level of activity that you're engaging in. So 7 to 9 hours. When you're deprived of sleep, and let's say you're only getting 6 hours a night, what's going to happen is you're dealing with sleep deprivation, and you're going to have some signs and symptoms of sleep deprivation, which includes problems with your glycogen synthesis. That's the blood sugar that you need, which is going to produce your activity in the gym. So reduced synthesis of that. You're going to have increased stress, decreases in growth hormone, human growth hormone, which is exactly what you need to increase mass, and problems with increased stress hormone or cortisol. So all of those things will in turn, again, affect your training and affect your recovery. So sleep is also the time when you are recovering the most, and the most adaptations are being made. There are 4 cycles of sleep. Basically, when you get into the fourth cycle, which is REM sleep or rapid eye movement sleep, you've entered the deepest stages of sleep, and you'll enter all of these stages several times throughout the night. So it's not like you go through 1, 2, 3, and then 4th, and then you're staying in 4th the whole time. You're going to go through several cycles of this, where you're going into deep REM sleep. It's about 90 minutes at best, and then you'll again recycle through. So to get a full proper rest and recovery, where your brain is recovering, your nervous system is recovering, learning, making adaptations, and the muscles themselves are actually rebuilding and synthesizing the proteins that you've given it, that you'll need at least 4 to 5 cycles per night. So sleep plays a huge role in your rest and recovery. If you're not getting enough sleep, sleep more, your training will improve. Find a way. Alright, so the next step is the nutrition for recovery. So nutrition, between your training sessions, you're going to need to have the right foods going in. So the very first number one way of recovering, the very first stage, is from the moment that you finish your last set, you need to be reaching for something to start to replenish your muscles' glycogen stores. So glycogen is just another word for sugar. It's another form. You eat a carb, which is a sugar, and as it's being broken down in your body, it's going to be sent into the bloodstream and given to your muscles to feed them, to replenish the energy that was used during your training session. So if that makes sense, that's your muscle glycogen repletion. So replenishing all of the stuff that you used during that hour or hour and a half or 2 hours in the gym, you'll need to do immediately after. Now you have kind of a window, so it's from 5 minutes after you're finished training, your heart rate starts to go back down to normal, to within 60 minutes. So within that 60 minutes, if you can't get enough carbs, you've got a problem. So you can take the form of an energy drink if you need to, or sorry, not an energy drink, a recovery drink after a post-training drink. You can have food, fruits, snacks, or actually a full meal. Approximately 1.2 grams per kilo of body weight, 1.2 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight of carbohydrates after training. So after training is the time that you should be consuming your carbs for the day. If you're one of those people who's cut down carbs to cut weight, it's hard for you to get a full good recovery after a really tough workout with zero carb diet. Actually, it's impossible. So you can try getting a little bit of fruit in there. You can try legumes, some whole complex carbs, some grains, some whole grains. And that'll be a great way to replenish your glycogen stores. When we're talking about protein, the protein is actually less important to take protein sooner, because your body is not going to start using up the protein and digesting the protein immediately and start rebuilding your muscles immediately after training. That whole process is happening throughout the day, throughout your rest time, throughout your active recovery, and especially during sleep. So the amount of protein that you should be taking is far less than the amount of carbs. And we're talking about a 3-to-1 ratio. So for 3 grams of carbs, you need about 1 gram of protein. All right, so that's 0.2 to 0.4 grams of protein per hour post-training. Okay? All right, so in a day, let's say you train in the morning. If you're in early morning training, you'll want to have a little bit in you. And then and you're going to go to your training, an hour and a half, 2 hours of training. Post-workout, immediately you've got to get your carbs in. You've got to get a little bit of protein. But the next thing you're going to want to do is throughout the rest of the day, you're going to want to take some kind of slow-burning protein. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to continue to digest for several hours throughout the day after training. And then at nighttime, you can go ahead and take a very slow-burning a blend of protein, so a casein or something, and take a dose of that before you go to bed. And that'll really help you when you're sleeping, keep you full for one thing. If you're one of those guys who wakes up at night feeling hungry, it'll keep you full, keep you sleeping, and your recovery process throughout the night is going to be really, really, really solid. Alright, so just so that we all know now, so we know what the carbs are there for. The protein, of course, the protein or amino acids, whichever you take. If you take BCAAs, that's fine as well, especially if you have a good, well-rounded diet. Supplementing with just the BCAAs is not too bad, and if you supplement with both a full blend of protein and your BCAAs, that's great too. Both of these have many roles in the body, primarily building tissue. It's not just the muscle tissue, it's all of your connective tissue in your body. And that's great, because when you're pumping iron, it's not like your muscles are the only thing that are taking a beating. It's your joints, it's the collagen between your joints, it's your ligaments, the tendons, they're all taking a beating when you're going at it at the gym. So the amino acids and proteins are really, really important. And when you take it throughout the night, and you take protein first thing in the morning, a really neat thing that a lot of people are unaware of is that as soon as you take protein in the morning, your body stops breaking down protein. So during our sleep cycles, our bodies are breaking down our own protein if there's not enough protein coming in. So to inhibit the protein breakdown that's happening in our bodies during sleep, you've got to keep taking protein first thing in the morning and last thing before sleep. The best way of getting your post-workout protein is going to be through amino acids, and it can be any blend of amino acids. It doesn't have to just be the BCAAs, and the reason for that is amino acids are what make up whole proteins. So we're talking about something that is in its most basic form, and the amino acid is, sometimes people call it a predigested, meaning it's a predigested protein, so when your body takes it in, the molecule is ready to go when it's in the amino acid form. So it's totally ready to go, it's already broken down, your body can transport it immediately out to wherever the needy muscle is. Okay? So, in conclusion for the nutrition, it's really important that you get both your carbohydrates and your proteins immediately after training, but in the right quantities and in the right ratio. So we're going for a 3-to-1 ratio again, carbs to proteins, and you're going to want to have protein 0.2 to 0.4 grams per kilo of body weight, and for the carbs, you're going to want to have approximately 1.2 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight. All right, so now let's say that you are wondering what kind of rest you need between your sets. That's a really good question, and that is highly, highly dependent upon the type of training that you do. All right, so when we're talking about endurance training, that's you guys who are training for the long cycle races, or you're training for a marathon or a half marathon or some kind of a race where it's very enduring. The truth be told, this is a low intensity style of training, classically. So if you're going to be training for a marathon, you're going to be running for an hour and a half. You don't need to rest. So the rest times for endurance training are the lowest. Next one up is the hypertrophy. We've talked about this before in some of our webinars. When we're talking about hypertrophy, if you really want to stimulate muscle growth more than anything else, when you're in the hypertrophy cycle of bodybuilding, you're going to want to keep your rests very, very short. So 30 to 60 seconds between each set is going to be really, really imperative. And the reason for that is that when you go into from your first set to your second set, if you can do 12 reps on your first one, take a very short rest, move into your second set with the same weight, and pump as many as you can with perfect technique, not to complete failure. You shouldn't be able to complete 12 reps again. Okay? If we're not going to complete failure, which is really important, never train to total failure. Unless you're doing it just for a very short cycle of a week or 2 weeks. Your third set, you're going to hit your third set and you won't even be able to hit 10, maybe 6 or 7. So short rests in between are going to elicit the hypertrophy kind of reaction from your muscles. So short rests. When we're talking about strength, this is your next one up. Strength, you do require a good rest between, because what we're trying to do is increase the overall force of the contraction irregardless of anything else. So your rest for strength training, which should be a part of a bodybuilding cycle. It comes before hypertrophy, so you want to increase your strength before you increase muscle size. So when you're talking about strength training, and also for the ladies who want to just get stronger, you can take rest between your sets. The sets should be tough. Each one should be very, very challenging. If you're doing sets of 12 repetitions, it's too light. You need to increase the intensity, bring up the intensity so that you're hitting maybe 5 reps, 4 reps, and it's challenging. With good technique, again, not going to complete failure, and hit in with nice long rests, basically until you feel like you can hit another 4, another 4, another 4. The last one is the power training. Power training, explosive training, trying to get faster, jumping higher, all of those are power training. When we're talking about power training, okay, now you're lifting super heavy weights, you're going to be using a very, very high intensity, so we're going to be doing reps of 1 rep, 2 reps, maximum 3 reps when we're doing power training. We're talking about snatch, clean and jerk, power cleans, hang snatch, those types of training, even plyometrics. When we're doing that, you're going to go for an extremely high intensity burst, and then you're going to take a full and complete rest, and you can rest 2 to 5 minutes. Okay? So you want to have a full and complete recovery so that for each subsequent set, you can go all out and outperform your last set. So the rests for power training are going to be the highest. And of course, again, you'll be able to judge it. So if you feel like your first set was easy, a shorter rest may be adequate for you to move on and still do better in your next sets. Finally, if you are not getting enough rest, it's going to be very, very, very obvious. Your body is going to be very tired. You're going to be feeling like you're not improving. You've probably hit a plateau. So some signs and symptoms that you should be looking for overtraining or under resting are, kind of a cranky malaise. I said trouble sleeping, depression, poor performance, and an increased risk of injury. And the reason for that is, of course, when you're tired, you're going to become a little bit sloppier. You're more likely to strain a muscle. The muscles are probably not ready for the kind of intensity that you want to bring. and that's more likely to lead to some problems. So always be aware of the overtraining, and sometimes it's not just that you're overtraining, it's that you're under recovering. So by dealing with sleep deprivation, you might lead to overtraining. No recovery is going to be one of the worst things for your training in the long run. Always be sure also that you're taking rest days throughout the week. So if you're training for hypertrophy, you can train 4 or 5 days a week and get amazing results. The 6-day a week is for the really advanced people. 7 days a week should never exist. Okay, 7 days a week is for those very elite endurance athletes who take rests every 10 days or so. Okay, so 7 days in a row is really a lot of training. Try and cut back from that, and you'll be amazed how much more rest you get, how much better you get at reaching your goal, and how much quicker you can get to your goal. All right, stay tuned for the next webinar that we will have up hopefully as soon as possible. And I'm also curious, maybe for the next webinar we can have some Q&A and we can answer some Q&A live here. So send us in your questions. I'm there every Wednesday on Facebook answering Q&A. It's Wednesday Sydney time at 1 to 2 p.m. Every Wednesday. Alright, so my name is Faresh and I'm the personal trainer with Amino Z. So send me your questions next time, and that's all for now.